Coming up on show 653, Ford back away from a punch-up with Tesla, the Mach-E spotted undisguised, and the Renault Zoe drops the battery lease. Those stories and many more coming up on today's show. Well, good morning, good afternoon or good evening. I mean, look, wherever you're listening around the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. My name is Martyn Lee, going through every single EV story I can possibly find to save you time. It's what I love doing, and I know, for many people listening, it does save you a bunch of time. Thank you as well to myev.com for their support, a great time saver. Oh man, only in the USA though. You don't know how lucky you are. If you're in the US, check out MyEV and pop your location in and just see what you can get locally and see what EVs are being bought and sold, and also if you are a dealer, new section on myev.com as well for you to have a look at. So from the MACH-E forum, or as one of my listeners emailed me recently to say, here in the US we say Mach. Can you please call it the Ford Mustang Mach-E? All right, well, I can, if you want me to. The Mach-E forum. Doesn't sound right, me saying that. We get our first undisguised look at the Ford Mustang Mach-E in the wild, running on public roads near Dearborn. An added wrinkle is the prototype is right-hand drive. Ford works on fine-tuning the full EV crossover for global consumption. And we can see how Ford has made design accommodations for the international license plate on the front and the rear fascias as well. Bit of a pre-production paint job on this. The front and rear bumpers are in shiny black. Rest of the car is in what was it? Silver. I haven't got my screen up on in the little studio here. And so had a look at that earlier, and you know what? It's a good-looking, the Mach-E is a good-looking Mustang. I think there's something about car launches where recently they haven't done the job in terms of doing them justice. The Cybertruck launched. I was really just bewildered at that 20-minute presentation. And yet since then I've looked at pictures and videos and seen the Cybertruck from many angles. And it's great. It's really grown on me. And the same with the Mustang as well. When they launched the Mustang, that weird Idris Elba presentation with dancing and musical instruments, and it's very strange. The car was almost the sideshow. It still didn't show it off. And I think the same with the Volkswagen ID3 as well. When that got a couple of months ago, it's big. There must be something about those launch events which are so hard to please everybody. I think you've got to live with them as well, like the cars. You've got to live with the cars and watch YouTube videos and see people getting in them and stuff. The Mach-E looks really nice in these photos. There's a picture of it charging as well. A different one, actually, an all-black one. Charging. Proportions look good. Love the crossover styling as well. This, remember, was just not the GT version. This is the first edition. Some of the journalists at the LA Auto Show got, not to drive it, but got a ride along, about 5 or 7 minutes. And by the sounds of it, from the people that I've spoken to anyway, by the sounds of it, very capable, very well made already for being a pre-production car, and impressed a lot of people. Well, Ford might be having luck with their new Mach-E car, the Mustang, but maybe they're not so good at picking fights on Twitter. There's been a really bizarre 48 hours of post-Cybertruck reveal weirdness. Ford seemed to invite Tesla outside for a punch-up, and when Elon Musk said, "I'll put my boxing gloves on," Ford went, "No, only joking. We didn't mean it. We didn't. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it." Like, oh my goodness, you can't challenge someone on Twitter, and then when they say, "Okay," back away. So what happened is one of the VPs of Ford on his Twitter said, if you send us a Cybertruck, we'll do an apples-to-apples test for you. Because Ford saw that the tug-of-war video, which was part of the Cybertruck reveal, Ford F-150, Cybertruck, immediately they debunked it and said, look, there's a weight differential, the F-150's lighter, we don't think you had it in four-wheel drive because it just got smoked, right? This VP at Ford said, hey, let's do it and we'll test it. So maybe they were thinking they'll load the F-150 up with more weight, maybe, if they thought it was a weight thing. Definitely four-wheel drive if they had thought there was some sort of fakery going on. Elon saw it and said, yes, you're on. However, in the last few hours, a senior Ford spokesperson nameless, in other words, a press officer, a senior Ford spokesperson told the InsideEVs.com website that the original tweet was tongue-in-cheek and meant to point out the absurdity of Tesla's tow video. That doesn't make any sense. It's a bit of a PR fail there. The thing to do is if you're going to step up and go toe-to-toe with Tesla, if you're going to do that, you know that Elon Musk is going to take a step forward as well and say, come on then if you think you're hard enough, as he did with Porsche and the Nürburgring record, and when they put the Taycan round the Nordschleife quicker than the Model S. The next thing you know, a bunch of Tesla engineers are already in Germany. Well, Tesla engineers work from Germany because, of course, they have a German base already, which people forget. Were already there installing a supercharger at the Nürburgring and putting big wings on Model S's, being like, right, give us some time. Plaid mode is coming, my friends. So if you're going to go toe-to-toe, you've got to follow through. Otherwise, you're all mouth, no trousers. And that was a bit of a PR fail. From Ford as well, who've launched a car not with a Ford badge on it, but with a Mustang badge on it. And they're trying to, and I think they have done with the car, just this was a particularly awkward moment from one of their VPs on Twitter. Perhaps, but the tweet hasn't been deleted. I'll say perhaps an awkward moment for this person with his bosses, but the tweet hasn't been deleted. So, you know, maybe drawing a line underneath it, Ford have said, no, only joking, we're not really going to have a fair fight. Talking of going toe-to-toe, don't poke the bear. Like, you know that the window smashing thing on Cybertruck, you know that although Elon laughed it off, he is, as someone said recently, the P.T. Barnum of our generation. He is such a showman. He knows that would have got a load of publicity. Good, bad, indifferent, it would have got people talking. But you also know that would have, in some ways, that would sting. I mean, people forget as well. Elon Musk is someone who sends rockets into space. And the one thing you can guarantee with building space rockets, they're going to explode. So Elon's had his fair share of seeing his money be exploded into literally millions of pieces. He's used to seeing failure because it drives him on to success. For every SpaceX launch that hasn't landed correctly on Of Course I Still Love You, for everyone that's exploded upon trying to take off, you know that just makes Elon and his team work harder. So you know when the Cybertruck comes out, it's going to be even tougher than it would have been otherwise, because I reckon it probably stung a little bit. So now BMW have taken to their PR machine. The market may be warming up for the Cybertruck. Over 200,000 reservations now. Well, people getting in line anyway and putting their $100 down. Let's not pretend that they're orders. You know, come on, just being fair. Those 200,000 people haven't ordered a car. They're in line for one, much like the ID3, but still. And also many people ordering multiple. Businesses have ordered multiple ones, so there's not 200,000 people, but there are people getting in line. So let's talk about BMW. Simon at Teslarati says, amongst those rival car makers, BMW have thrown shade at Tesla with its durability and angular design. BMW took to Twitter to promote their BMW X5, their Protection Edition. It's an armoured version of the car, of the SUV. Referring to Tesla's demo, BMW tweeted and noted that its X5 Protection Edition offers splinter protection in case it gets hit by a metal ball, an apparent reference to Cybertruck's unveiling event. I don't know what is in this for these big car makers like BMW to be picking on Tesla. That is one of the marketing rules. What book did I read 20 years ago that was all about when you're the big boys, don't pick on the... Was it Trout and Reese? Was it one of the Reese books, or one of the marketing books that was very famous in like the 90s, early 2000s? And it was, they either do like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, those kind of things. Like when you're number one of the rules is you don't pick on, you don't appear like the nasty big bully. When you are numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, when you're a challenger, you can do that and you can be like scrappy. But when you're number one, you have to change. You have to behave like the number one. And there's, I don't think anything in BMW in it for them, picking and throwing shade on Tesla. But what do you think? Maybe I'm wrong. Give me your thoughts. Elon Musk has been on a tweet storm lately. Now, on Sunday, he was tweeting plenty over the weekend, and also he noted there'll be no new product unveilings in the near future. Cybertruck is our last product unveil for a while, said Elon. And we knew that anyway, because the Model S, the Model X, the Model 3, they're already out now. There's 4 models in the pipeline: Model Y, Semi, S and X Plaid mode, Roadster, Cybertruck. Now, we knew there was going to be no more ATV, right? But you can get that only if you're a Cybertruck buyer. So we knew there was going to be no more of the big product unveilings that we've become almost used to with Tesla, but we do know from Elon now there'll be technology announcements. According to Inside EVs, we know Tesla's working on its own in-house battery cells and providing higher energy density and at affordable prices as well. The question is, when does Elon have... What else does Elon have on the shelves that we don't know about? Well, there is going to be a battery tech day. What is that? Sometime in Q1, isn't it? I didn't look that up before I came into the studio to record, but I think that is sometime Q1. There's going to be a battery day, which is one of those times when Elon's... It's nothing like the product launches. More like the investor days where Elon will be on stage and a couple of others. Maybe JB, but he's stepped back a bit now. So that will be certainly on the cards to find out about their cell technology following the Maxwell purchase, which arguably was kind of small fry in the grand scheme of things. Okay, let's talk about Ford developing an SUV. So all the investor money that's been poured into EV startup Rivian may be starting to bear fruit for the investors, according to a report today by Reuters and reported by CNET. One of the most prominent Rivian investors is Ford, now rumoured to be readying Lincoln to release an EV in 2022 on Rivian's chassis. Whether it's the same chassis underneath the R1S and the R1T, we don't know. The S is the course of the SUV. Seems likely, though. Why would they build a whole new platform just for Lincoln? Here's where things get complicated. Based on Lincoln's other SUV offerings, it's going to compete with the Rivian R1S. $72,000-ish. It wouldn't surprise us to see Lincoln offering something more of a luxury soft roader, staying away from that utility style of Rivian and to try and go to different markets. I'll pop a link to CNET in the show notes where you can read more. This next story is incredible, if I can use that word. Toyota. Here we go. Toyota held a behind-the-scenes roundtable discussion with half a dozen journalists last week at the LA Auto Show, says the Electrek website, who were in the room. That session gave us a chance to ask Toyota about its views on EVs and its decision to fight against California's clean air rules. Jack Hollis is the Group Vice President and General Manager of Toyota North America. I quote, "We are continuously working on EV entries, but right now, there's no demand," end quote. Talk about being out of touch with literally the biggest Google search term in Tesla's history, cybertruck. The only thing there is at the moment is demand for EVs. What there's not is supply. We can't get the cars we want to be driving for years at the moment, especially with all of Tesla's announcements. They've now got more vehicles in the pipeline than they have actually got on their website to buy. But that's the case with so many of these car manufacturers. Great announcements, very little you can go down to the dealership and buy. So maybe that's what Toyota think. Maybe Toyota think because no one's buying EVs in scale that there's no demand. There is huge pent-up demand. I kind of just want to shake someone like that and say, you're just going to become extinct. And of course, Toyota, biggest car maker in the world. I go back to that thing. It's funny enough, actually, weirdly, I hadn't planned to mention this, but when you are the number one, Toyota are the number one. I just would love them to be talking about EVs in a more constructive way rather than saying there is no demand. Outside the door of the conference room, the whole auto industry at the LA Auto Show was showing off how they are moving to EVs. But Mr. Hollis and his Toyota colleagues wanted to talk about how hydrogen infrastructure needed to be built. Talked about Toyota's no such thing as a self-charging hybrids. They want to talk about anything but EVs. The tone-deaf, this is not my words, Electrek's, the tone-deaf responses to our questions and from other journalists willing to ask tough questions were shocking. Electrek's word, they were shocked at how Toyota would refuse to engage in a conversation about EVs. Obviously I wasn't in the room, just saddened to see that. They are still a huge force in the automotive industry, We need them to get behind EVs. But if they don't, they won't be for long. The car that I drive is a Renault Zoe, and I've got it on a battery lease. So I own all of the car, but I don't own the battery. I pay Renault £59 a month for the privilege of driving with that battery. On the bright side, if anything goes wrong with that battery, ain't my problem. Come and put a new one in, Mr. Renault or Mrs. Renault. On the downside, there's ongoing payments, which is technically a lease. I guess it shows up on my credit file, at least, as an annual, whatever that is, 500 and something pounds a month loan to me. Like, first time I saw it, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I haven't got a loan. I don't have any debt. And I was like, oh, right. It says Renault RCI Finance next to it, because what they do is they put on your credit file, well, at least it shows up on mine, as a loan for the annual amount. And, of course, you pay it every single month, not just for 1 year. But now the new Renault Zoe will be offered in the UK, at least, without the lease option, full purchase option only for the battery. The monthly battery lease payment system is going away in the UK. No longer available. A result of, as far as I can gather, it is a result of what they call good residual values, which enable a more competitive purchase price on monthly payments on the car, because if you are paying monthlies and you are doing the monthly payment thing, that's based on residuals of what the car be worth in 2, 3, 4 years. And because EVs are so strong with residuals, they can bring down the monthly payment, and they think that that is better than offering 2 monthly payments. The Zoe was initially only available as a battery lease. Then you could do a full purchase if you got the I model. I went for the lease version because it lowered the purchase price for me. And the Zoe, with its new refresh 52 kilowatt hour battery, 245 miles WLTP, but it will go further because most of those are driven around, many of them are driven around towns and cities, and it will go further than that. 50 kilowatt DC fast charging, and I think in other countries the lease has stayed. I'm looking into it. BMW also confirm that the i3 range extender is heading towards extinction. The rapid progress of the battery cell technology at BMW means they don't need to have their range extending technology forever. The Rex, as we call it, range extender, Rex on the BMW i3. According to Green Car Reports, Jan Freeman, who is BMW's manager for connected e-mobility, says it has no future. The idea behind the range extender really helps people get over the range anxiety issue, he explains, and it helps BMW from being reliant on big battery packs at the time. With a range extender, you always had the feeling like, okay, I've got a backup solution. BMW is planning to continue the Rex option in North America until they feel it's redundant, which could be 2021 when they plan to release a new battery upgrade for the BMW i3. That is in direct contradiction to an article that was out only last week to say the BMW i3 is dead. When this current battery version runs its model year course, there'll be no new ones. And now an article today on Green Car Reports, which is quoting someone from BMW saying, oh, there'll be more i3s, just they won't come with range extenders anymore in North America. Many countries, I think in the UK, you can't buy it with a Rex already. But then again, the range extender behaves differently in this country than it does in the USA because of, I don't know, it must be like government regulations, I suppose. The Rex can turn on at any time. I think if you have a BMW i3 in the US, can't you only, doesn't the range extender only come on when the battery gets really low? There must be a reason for that. If you know, let me know if you're an i3 owner. Let's finish off with this. And one of the reasons I make this podcast every day is I love learning about EVs, but also it's important to know about things like this. And a new study, we've talked about studies before involving the massive damage done to young people and babies in particular from particulates from petrol and diesel. Now, older people are affected as well. This study examined women in their 70s and 80s. Those who were exposed to air pollution in large cities experienced greater declines in memory and were more likely to get Alzheimer's than their counterparts who breathed clean air, according to a new study by the Wake Forest School of Medicine and their colleagues at other institutions. According to Green Car Congress, the findings of the nationwide study published in Brain touch on the renewed interest in preventing Alzheimer's disease by reducing risk. And they hint at why Alzheimer's is it's the 6th leading cause of death in the USA. And they talk about how there's no cure or treatment for it. PM 2.5 particulates are those particular particulates of a certain size that come from traffic exhausts and smoke and dust. And because they're so small, PM 2.5 is so small, it gets into buildings, your lungs, it can be inhaled, it can move into the bloodstream, it can reach your brain. Fine particulate pollution is not only associated with asthma, that has long been proven, cardiovascular disease, lung disease, premature death. Previous research had suggested that fine particulate pollution exposure was the risk with Alzheimer's disease and dementia. And what scientists didn't know, and they do now, was how PM 2.5 alters the brain structure itself and causes memory decline. We know this now. It's now been proven with mass, random, controlled studies, peer-reviewed, and we still think it's okay for big car companies to be making disgusting, polluting cars. I don't know what to do. It's like climate change. Like we know what's going to happen if we carry on doing this, and then you have the president tweeting pictures from his plane saying, "Oh, it's a really cold day. Look at the Arctic. It's full of ice. Everything's fine." Kind of makes me sad sometimes. Right, let's get on to question of the week this week. It's a good question this week, kind of controversial, because the Cybertruck is either a love it or hate it thing, but the launch was botched, the windows did break, and the news went viral into so many places that were non-EV, they were mainstream. So do you think the Cybertruck reveal helped or hindered the wider movement to EVs? And I'd love for you to tell me your thoughts on email, hello@evnewsdaily.com, or on Facebook and YouTube comments. Well, thank you to the 248 patrons of this podcast who do keep me going. My premium partners, Phil Roberts of Electric Future, Brad Crosby and Avid Technology. And if you'd like to see what it's all about and throw a few dollars towards someone who's making a show about EVs and the things all around it, then you can check out patreon.com/EVNewsDaily, but entirely optional, because I'll make this show whatever. Well, there are 652 previous shows, and the new ones come at you if you are a subscriber. If you can take a couple of minutes to leave a little review on Apple Podcasts, if you you find yourself in that ecosystem, say a few words, a little star rating, whatever you think really, 1 word, 20 words, a nice little review. It really helps other people to see that and then give this podcast a try, which helps me grow, which helps spread the word, which helps da-da-da-da-da. Thank you very much for listening today. Have a wonderful day, whatever you're up to. Do remember, though, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.